One Zambia, one nation. To present the main news at 19 hours, I'm Patricia Ellis. Our sign language interpreter is Obed Mambwe. A look at the top stories in the news. Government has launched the National Land Titling Program Center with a target to issue 300,000 certificates of title to properties on state land in 2018. Copperbelt Permanent Secretary Bright Nundwe has challenged AVIC International, the Chinese contractor engaged to construct the multi-million dollar Ndola International Airport, to beat the deadline. Minister of Transport and Communications Brian Mushimba says the impending cyber security laws are meant to safeguard Zambia's cyberspace. And also coming up in the news, the Football Association of Zambia FAZ has officially announced Sven Vandenbroek as new head coach of the Zambia national football team. Thank you so much for joining us, and now the news in detail. Government has launched the National Land Titling Program Center with a target to issue 300,000 certificates of title to properties on state land in 2018. Minister of Lands Jean Kapata says the titling program will empower property owners to use their properties for further investment and development. Speaking during the launch of the center in Lusaka today, Ms. Kapata said the center will also reduce displacements which occur due to lack of proof of ownership, especially for vulnerable people. Details in this report.
Land issues have in the past made headlines, but in most cases for the wrong reasons. Many people have faced displacement, while others have had their land grabbed for not acquiring certificates of title. For this reason, government has put in place a program to rectify this challenge.
The National Land Titling Program has the following objectives: to reduce displacements which occur mainly as a result of lack of proof of ownership, especially among the vulnerable.
After she launched the National Land Titling Center, Ms. Kapata says some places that were not recognized will also be considered for land title under the program.
We have to work with
Meanwhile, Ministry Surveyor General Joseph Minango outlined some of the areas that will benefit from the program. To ensure the program achieves its set target, communities are being sensitized.
We continue to sensitize the members of those communities in Mandolo and Kamarasa to come forward and make payments for the survey diagrams, make payments against the invitation to treat, so that we can be able to produce your titles.
The National Land Titling Program Center, which is expected to run for 5 years, is expected to contribute to socio-economic development and ensure guaranteed security of tenure for property owners. Mary Kachepa, ZNBC News, Lusaka.
Over 800 families of Chichele area in Ndola have called on the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources to help them get back a piece of land allegedly sold off to a local investor. Group representative Abraham Manda says about 870 families risk being evicted from the land they have lived on for over 10 years by some named individuals who have allegedly sold about 3,000 hectares of land to Golden Lay Limited of Ndola. Zanis has more in this report.
Abraham Manda break tears following the challenges they are going through to repossess a parcel of land they occupied for over 10 years. He is representing over 800 families who have allegedly been displaced after 2,964 hectares of land they were sitting on has allegedly been sold to a private investor, Golden Lay Limited, by some named individuals.
I thought of the lives of the people, how they shall represent. That one I knew it was a matter of silence for me.
Area Member of Parliament Jonas Chanda visited the area where he held a meeting with the affected families and the investor. He has called for calm among the affected families as the matter will be tabled before relevant authorities.
One thing I can assure you, imwe pano muri abantu over 800. Nomanga to tamsha abantu 800 mukaya kwisa. So ishalo umushiri wenu ain. So iridi ashiri yenu I'll take it to parliament ain. Number 1 kungande amafunde. Number 2 I'll take it to Minister of Lands wa Jean Kapatain, eba Minister of Lands. Number 3 I'll also take it to the office of the Vice President. Pandwa Vice President bari shberia shine bari miebere powapera na instruction. So we are going to work in our government. Chashupirila baka to advise baka take away swala tumfa. He's a very listening president, he's a very humble president. We don't want you to take the law in your own hands.
Dr. Chanda said the land policy, which is yet to be tabled in Parliament, will address such issues once approved.
That is why mulomfa pakati apa mwengi mwenfa nizubuteko bwa PF ebuteko bwana mbonu buleta land policy ngati walikwete land policy kufuma mu 1964 ufika na no mangata twakwata mafia atule.
Meanwhile, Golden Lay Limited General Manager Janse van Venberg acknowledges the purchasing of the named parcel of land by his company.
The thing is we bought the property with them. I mean, there was 52 hectares here. We gave them 200 hectares of the farm. So how far that is true? What is a problem for me, which is a concern for me, is we got. You'll see there's old women and people there. You know, they don't need to be suffering like this. And the fact is, somebody is telling them not the truth, and they are suffering because of this now. And they don't know the truth. I think that's where the thing comes in. If they knew, they would have known what to do. What they're doing is not right. But it is not for me to decide that.
Frank Chingambu reporting from Ndola for Zanis.
The Zambia Revenue Authority ZRA collected 39.2 billion kwacha in revenue between January and December 2017. This is 1.5 billion kwacha above the parliamentary target. ZRA Board Chairman Chileshe Kapwepwe discloses when she officially handed over the ZRA annual report to Minister of Finance Margaret Monakato in Lusaka today. Ms. Kapwepwe has attributed the positive performance during the year to the continuous and heightened engagements with taxpayers to ensure voluntarily compliance. She said, in addition, the relative improvement in inflation, electricity supply, the price of copper on the international market, among others, also contributed to the sustained revenue performance in 2017. Ms. Kapwepwe said ZRA has embarked on several strategies to improve its tax collection and has learned a lot of lessons on the way to improve tax collection. She said the authority is largely focusing on leveraging technology and has been using electronic fiscal devices to increase its coverage. Ms. Kapwepwe also called on government to help in the quick implementation of the national financial switch to help address the high transaction cost associated with payment formalities. And Mrs. Monakatwe congratulated ZRA for surpassing the parliamentary target. She has further encouraged the authority to encourage tax compliance among Zambians.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you.
Sorry, Chair and Honorable Minister. I need to reset from video. No, let me do it.
There's still the challenge of the high transactional cost, which are associated with payment in electronic form. So this is one of the issues that we would wish your ministry, Honourable Minister, to look at. Therefore, we would actually would welcome the implementation of the national financial switch, which I think is on the cards. That would obviously be a huge factor in enhancing our efforts, and we look forward to that implementation. We shall, of course, continue to focus on modernization, enhancing the way we do things so that we have a more effective and efficient revenue administration.
I do like the fact that you're doing a lot more of the education of the taxpayer, because we need more and more Zambians to just pay their taxes, to become more compliant. I'm so pleased to hear that you're leveraging technology as well to make sure that we can collect better. And yes, certainly we will help you in as much as we can to make sure that we do have a reduced transaction base, which, as you stated, is one of your challenges, and also to make sure that we can bring about the national financial switch. And it is in our cards to make sure that comes through. I'm sure that will help you with better collection and more compliance.
The Policy Monitoring and Research Center, PMRC, says Zambia and China should agree to restructure and renegotiate existing debt. PMRC Executive Director Benedette Decker says renegotiating the Chinese debt should be done in the spirit of a shared future and enhanced working cooperation. She says in a statement to ZNBC News in Lusaka that an opportunity exists to renegotiate the China debt, and the government must strongly consider this option. Ms. Decker has observed that Zambia's debt burden has risen notably in recent years, and Chinese loans form a major part of this debt. She says, China being an all-weather friend to Zambia, there is need for that government to demonstrate its commitment to shared prosperity and people-to-people relations with African countries by writing off some debt. Ms. Decker says this will help the two countries to start afresh on a public-private partnership setting. She says her organization will continue to advocate for increased economic cooperation to achieve phenomenal growth on the strength of interwoven interests. Ms. Decker says her organization will be engaging with key authorities from the People's Republic of China, such as China Exim Bank, to discuss options for relief of Zambia's debt to China. Minister of National Development and Planning Alexander Chiteme has urged new Chinese ambassador to Zambia, Li Ji, to implore Chinese companies operating in the country to transfer skills to Zambians. The minister said this when Ambassador Li paid a courtesy call on him at his office today. Mr. Chiteme, who noted Chinese investment across various sectors in the country, said expertise and skills that Chinese investors bring in the country should be imparted in the Zambian people. He said in a statement unveiled to ZNBC News by Ministry of National Development and Planning spokesperson Chibaula Silwamba that the cooperation between the two governments is bearing fruit and working in line with the 7th National Development Plan. Meanwhile, Ambassador Li has commended the country for having a favorable and attractive investment environment, which he says makes it the second largest Chinese investment destination. The Chinese ambassador has further disclosed that President Edgar Lungu and his Chinese counterpart, Xi Jinping, will in September this year hold a bilateral meeting to discuss various developmental projects aimed at enriching both countries. Minister of Housing and Infrastructure Development, Ronald Totela, has directed contractors to ensure that they invest in projects they are paid for and help government achieve its policy statement of completing projects that are above 80%. Mr. Totela says the desire of government is to ensure that all the funds are used for intended projects and not spread resources to other projects. The minister was speaking at his office today when he and his Director of Public Infrastructure, Daniel Danny Mfune met Gangsu Constructing Company, the contractor constructing Pambashe boarding school. And Mr. Stotela has directed Gangsu Managing Director Lee Ye to immediately resume work on Pambashe boarding school because government wants to start commissioning projects. And Mr. Lee assured the minister that works on the project will resume. He explained that he has 5 projects running across the country and that when he was paid the 4 million kwacha for Pambashe boarding school, he used it to fund ongoing projects in other areas.
So if we choose projects, don't think we don't put priority and premium on projects as government. We choose to say, out of this, we have 115 schools we are building. Let's target maybe 50 schools, we finish. And then we get down to another level of schools. So even when we pay contractors, we are targeting, we have made a resolution. I'm a chairman of the task force on infrastructure. We've said, let's target this after we finish this. And I told him, the 4 million we've received, invested back. It will give you more interim payment certificate. We are receiving a payment in the next 2 weeks or so from the Ministry of Finance. Then we pay to finish the remainder of the work so that by the end of this year, the project is finished. And if he doesn't invest the money back on that project, where is he going to get the interim payment certificate for government to pay for that project?
Every place they do small vehicles. That's why last year a lot of 1.8 million certificated. Just a few people that are running, you know. Because if I this money just put one place, that's no problem. But a lot of places, there's still people that, you know, if the people, some people there, they're still working, you know.
Copperbelt Permanent Secretary Bright Nundwe has challenged AVIC International, the Chinese contractor engaged to construct the multi-million-dollar Ndola International Airport, to beat the deadline. Mr. Nundwe, who toured the $397 million project, said he is impressed with the quality of works done so far. And project manager Wang Fei said the Ndola International Airport will be completed within 2 years. Tamara Muswala gives us details in the foreign report.
This is the construction site for the new Ndola International Airport, which is set to become a hub for Southern Africa. About 1 million tourists and other passengers are expected to be landing here annually. The Chinese contractor AVIC International has been engaged to construct the multi-million-dollar modern airport. The first phase will gobble about 397 million United States dollars.
This is the terminal area. We have over 20 buildings in this area, including the terminal, business complex, air traffic tower, hotel, warehouse, everything there.
Already, 800 local people have been employed here. Copperbelt Permanent Secretary Bright Nundwe today toured the construction site.
We want the onlookers, other countries say, okay, this is a beautiful, magnificent, outstanding, beautiful, excellent, awesome building. That's what I want to see here. Yeah. This one will be a focal point for trade in Zambia and in the Copperbelt. All these countries will be landing on this airport. So to me, I will support. But what is important is to beat the deadline. Yes, right. Do quality job. Treat the workers properly. Let the workers also treat you well. They need to reciprocate.
This project is expected to be complete by 2020, but the Permanent Secretary wants it done before schedule.
Yes, I know the entire project is supposed to finish by 2020, isn't it? Yes. But to me, you ought to beat the deadline because money is readily available.
A police station and dormitory houses for police officers have also been constructed right at the entrance of the airport to enhance security in the area. The police station has been handed over to government.
So this police post will go a greater way in ensuring that there is peace and tranquility in this part of Ndola. So we are happy that this thing has come to fruition. I'm happy also for the play that the Dagama Shot school pupils demonstrated here, and issues of gender-based violence, thefts and other vices will come to an end.
The new airport is expected to change the face of the Copper Belt. Tamara Mswala, ZNBC News in Ndola.
Government says it is reforming public service human resource management to decentralize the system and enhance service delivery. Speaking during a meeting of the Decentralization Policy Implementation Committee in Lusaka, attended by permanent secretaries and other government officials, Secretary to the Cabinet, Roland Msiska, says the reforms will improve the management of human resource in a devolved governance system. Dr. Msiska says the process is taking place alongside the devolution process. He says the reforms will decentralize some aspects of human resource management in ministries, departments, parastatals and councils. Dr. Msiska says the devolution process has reached an advanced stage and called on stakeholders to move along with the process. Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation ZNBC Director General Richard Mwanza says the corporation has achieved a lot of successes that can be archived and shown to the public. Mr. Mwanza, also says it is important to preserve equipment that is no longer being manufactured for the benefit of posterity. He was speaking when Lusaka Museum Director Victoria Piri and her entourage called on him at Mass Media Complex in Lusaka today. Etambuyu Katota has more in the following report.
As the Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation makes headways to completely switch over from analog to digital broadcasting in line with the International Telecommunications Union, a number of transformations have taken place with the institution on installing new state-of-the-art digital broadcasting equipment at its Lusaka and Kitwe studios.
So you can do a post-production from that content. You have come with the raw content footage from the field. So anyone can make a program either any time, maybe even after 1 month, 2 months, and so on. That footage is still seated there.
The former President Kaunda, former President Chiruba, late President Manawasa, President Banda, President Sata, and the current president. So we literally have everything that we think is important.
And as custodians of historical artifacts, Lusaka Museum Director Victoria Piri has taken interest in understanding what the switch from analog to digital broadcasting will entail.
Is to preserve the movable heritage that the country has. So the stories you are talking about, they are not sitting somewhere, they are moving with you.
ZNBC Director General Richard Mwanza says the corporation has achieved a lot of success that can be archived and shown to the public.
And then we moved from the valve era to transistor era. But now we're talking about integrated circuits. It's very, very minute transmitters and so on. So that information and the equipment that we used to, we need to preserve that for the succeeding generation, that people may know where have we come from. We have the state of the art now, studios. But where did we come from?
For Mr. Mwanza, the partnership with the Lusaka National Museum is inevitable as it will lay a foundation which will avail the country documented history of past operations of ZNBC.
Yes. After the Second World War, the studios moved to present-day Zambia Institute of Mass Communication in the Ridgeway area of Lusaka. And during which period, a simple receiver known as a saucepan, this was a round thing with valves inside, was designed so that Africans could afford to buy it.
Yes. And the Lusaka Museum Director says time has come for the public not to view museums as tourist sites, but places where people can acquire knowledge and preserve information for future generations.
And our institution, National Museums Board, most people, like you said, don't know what we do. Yeah, because people think it's a place for tourists. Actually, tourism is a byproduct of the museum. The museum is a place of education. The museum is a place of new knowledge.
Mrs. Piri added that ZNBC has the capacity to house its own museum because it has a rich history and background. Etambuyu Katota, ZNBC News, Lusaka.
The movement of cargo to and from the port of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania is expected to improve following the ongoing expansion works at the port. Tanzania Port Authority has embarked on the expansion and modernization of the Dar es Salaam port at a cost of $5 million United States dollars. Here's a report.
It is a busy day at the Dar es Salaam port in Tanzania. About 13 metric tons of cargo is handled here per year. This cargo comes from different parts of the world, mainly Asia, and is destined for various parts of Africa. The expansion works here have been underway, and about $5 million United States dollars has been pumped into the project. Freddy Luundu is a port manager. He, however, feels delays by trucks to cross the Nakonde to Nduma border post, which is currently under construction, is affecting movement of freight.
We have got a very good business relationship with Zambia, though we are facing the two major challenges. The delays at Nakonde because of the construction that is going on, but also because of deteriorating capacity of Tazara. We believe our two governments, they are working on it. I know several forums are taking place right now to make sure that those two major challenges are resolved.
This came to light during the tour of the port of the Dar es Salaam facility conducted by the Tanzania Port Authority and stakeholders from the transit markets. Once expansion works here are completed, the tonnage of goods handled at the port is expected to increase from 13 to 23 million tons per year. And Zambia, which is one of the major beneficiaries at the port, is poised to greatly benefit from the expansion works. This is through the importation of second-hand imported vehicles and general goods. Josi Mwanza is the Assistant Commissioner in charge of Muchinga Province from the Zambia Revenue Authority. He feels the expansion of the Dar port will be a boost to revenue collection from the Nakonde border post.
So, on the part of Zambia Revenue Authority, we have undertaken to improve on the efficiencies at the border, efficiencies which will lead to reduce the dwell time of consignments at the border. But currently, like the port manager indicated, the Tanzanian side is still constructing their facilities for the one-stop border posts. The Zambian facilities are in place already. So this is contributing to the delays at the border because we are currently using one lane for inbound and outbound traffic.
Easton Sakala is the secretary of the Zambia Customs and Forwarding Agents Association.
Well, at the end of the day, if coupled with the service that they will be offering, which is speedy clearance of goods, then it will all make sense. Yes, we appreciate that they are undergoing serious development and they have revamped a lot of equipment, but it all comes down to the service levels. I mean, if the service levels of related partners, the shipping line agents, the customs clearing agents, and the freight forwarders and the transporters does not improve, then we'll still face the same problem.
The works at the Dar es Salaam port, which are currently at 60%, are expected to be completed by the year 2020. Lufola Nkowani reporting from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania.
Minister of Transport and Communications Brian Mushimba says the impending cybersecurity laws are meant to safeguard Zambia's cyberspace. Speaking when he issued a ministerial statement on the use of social and electronic media platforms in Zambia in Parliament today, Mr. Mushimba said the laws will promote responsible use of electronic media platforms as well as improve the country's economic performance. He said the enforcement of bills will lower online risks risks such as fraud and cyberbullying. Mr. Mshimba, however, said those that have been engaging in unpleasant online behavior have a reason to worry, as the laws will be enough to deal with such conduct. He said government is putting measures such as development and implementation of child online protection strategy and appropriate legislation. Mr. Mshimba further told Parliament that government will build the capacity of law enforcement agencies. You are watching the main news at 19 on ZNBC TV. We go for our first commercial break, and when we come back, more news still to come. Welcome back. Time now for our education segment, and on the segment tonight, the Ministry of General Education says there is need for more colleges of education to be involved in art in order to create an environment for human capital development in the country. Join me for more after this message.
Or business with Cavendish University's working adult programs. These programs have been specifically developed with you in mind, the working adult. Knowing you are busy, you only need to attend classes part-time, while the rest of your studies will be done at your convenience with the assistance of learning materials provided on a digital device. So you no longer have to choose between your career and your education. Earning a university degree has finally been made easier for the working adult. Check our website for more information or to apply.
And now, education news in detail. The Ministry of General Education says there is need for more colleges of education to be involved in art in order to create an environment for human capital development in the country. Ministry of General Education Permanent Secretary Henry Tukombe says colleges involved in art are a good foundation for students seeking to create employment for others. He was speaking during the 2018 Teachers Education Performing and Visual Arts Festival in Chipata. More in this report.
Artworks worth thousands of kwacha being displayed by student teachers from different parts of the country. The students converged in Chipata for the 2018 Teachers Education Performing and Visual Arts Festival. Ministry of General Education Permanent Secretary Henry Tukombe graced the event.
So think beyond boundaries and participate in this year's competition and focus on how you can create your own wealth and ensure to keep the nation healthy. Remember, as the saying goes, an idle mind, the devil's workshop. So let's be creative and productive in order to bring meaningful development to our country.
Mr. Tukombe noted that most students desire white-collar jobs after graduating from college. The permanent secretary urged students to venture into art as one way to create more jobs for other youths.
If you look behind and look at Nigeria, the film industry contributes a huge amount of money to the growth of Nigerian economy. If you are doubting, you have your phones, you can go on and see how much the film industry can contribute to the national growth. You can do it, and you are equal to the task.
Dr. Andrew Mutobo is Kitwe College of Education principal.
As teacher trainers, guests of honor, we can only assure you that we are going to implement our curriculum to the fullest, and we are going to implement a tutor system as per direction by the ministry to the best of our abilities. These, ladies and gentlemen, you have seen here are just part of the teachers that we are training in various fields.
This year's Teachers Education Performing and Visual Art Festival has been held under the theme, A Wealthy, Healthy Zambia Through Art. Mark Ziligone, ZNBC News, Chipata.
Well, that's all we had for you in our education news tonight. Join us again next week for more. And now the rest of the news. Vision Ambassadors, a non-profit making organization that works to uplift the welfare of the communities, has implored candidates contesting the Lusaka mayoral and council chairperson elections across the country to be issue-based and avoid character assassinations. And Vision Ambassadors National Chairperson Meshek Kombe has taken a swipe at some opposition political party leaders who have failed to preach peace whenever they have an opportunity to address the nation. Mr. Kombe says opposition political party leaders should instead emulate President Edgar Lungu, who has taken chance at every fora to preach peace, love and unity to all Zambians. The Vision Ambassador Chairperson was speaking to ZNBC News in Lusaka today.
Let them talk about what they're able to give to the people of Zambia. I would like to commend the President, who is all out there, discouraging violence and talking to everyone at almost every platform, telling the people of Zambia and politicians in particular to be non-violent. That is commendable. And I would like to take this opportunity to condemn some of the political leaders we've had agitating violence.
The Presidential Empowerment Initiative Fund has called on women in Central Province to venture into agriculture. Fund National Coordinator Clement Tembo says President Edgar Lungu knows the importance of empowering women in society. Mr. Tembo says women in Central Province and Kabwe in particular will never be left out in the ongoing presidential empowerment activities. He said this when he handed over 100 incubators costing 450,000 kwacha to 100 women groups across Kabwe. And Kabwe Mayor Prince Chileshe thanked President Lungu for considering the women in Kabwe.
The President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Edgar Lungu, remains committed to ensure that our marketeers, our traders, and our mothers, especially the women clubs, have a platform of exposure. The most important thing that he has sent me to say here is very simple. It's a message of love. The President has told me, tell the people of Kabwe, especially the women clubs, that he loves you very much and he will still remember you. And he remains committed to ensure that a platform of exposure is created for you.
Vanamayo baba pelanga ifwe. Ndefo afyo kupanga ekiralo kyako ati nemwebe ne kumbali twala monofo twinga kitashani kuma clubs yarana imwe mwako atako twa monofo twinga myafwiri shako so that you don't feel left behind. Because ubuteko bwabaka teka ngefine bachiranda ba official ba community development naba kwate ekikuku kyako twafwirisha.
Minister of Tourism and Arts, Charles Banda, says he will study and get a good understanding of the 50% partnership offer by Mushingashi Game Farm to the Department of National Parks and Wildlife. Mr. Banda says government's position is to step up wildlife conservation through partnerships with other stakeholders who bring on board capacity, knowledge, skill and technical know-how. The minister was speaking when chairperson of Tudor Investment Corporation, Paul Jones, owner of Mushingashi, called on him at his office. And Mr. Jones said the partnership will come with great benefits to the entire Kafue ecosystem. And former Secretary to the Cabinet, Mr. Evans Chibiliti, who is partner in the initiative, said the partnership will assure government of continuous revenue as the profits made will be shared equally. According to Mushingashi prospectus, the project is expected to see the procurement of vehicles, heavy equipment, road power lines, fencing and other construction projects that are expected to generate value-added tax contribution of over $1 million within 2018.
And we've gone as far as saying we should also include our traditional leaders, for instance. They should go into game ranching and so forth, because we feel that it is one of the ways we can help to conserve, to reduce such as in poaching. Because poaching comes from the community when they're not benefiting. Poaching comes from the community when there is no ownership. So to create ownership is what we are trying to achieve. Because we know that once we've created ownership in the community, people will know how to utilize that resource. But it requires much more than just the community.
The game ranch that I own, and I think this would be a fantastic benefit for the entire ecosystem around Kafue National Park. I was extraordinarily pleased to see how realistic he was and practical he was about understanding the issues and dealing with them in a way that I think will benefit the people of Zambia first and the overall environment and ecosystem around Kafue National Park second.
I've seen you from Tudo. What's your role in Mushingashi? You're a chairperson for Tudo.
I am my Tudo Investment Corporation. I'm a money manager in the United States. I purchased Mushingashi Game Farm, and I'm hoping to make that a signature tourism center in Zambia as.
In sports news, the Football Association of Zambia FAZ has officially announced Sven Vandenbroek as new head coach of the Zambia national football team. FAZ Acting Secretary General Adrian Kashala says Vandenbroek will be unveiled to the media on Tuesday after his formal presentation to the Minister of Sports on Monday next week. Kashala says in a statement unveiled to ZNBC Sports in Lusaka today that the head coach will immediately commence work and meet local division coaches for an insight into player selection. He says Vandenbroek will also dedicate a week to attend training sessions of various super division clubs and watch league games as well as the Zambia Under-20 qualifier against Burundi. Kashala says a detailed program of his presentation and unveiling will be made available to the media soon. Vandenbroek is an AFCON winner with the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon. Meanwhile, Zambian FIFA referee Gianni Sikazwe has been selected as one of the 17 referees to officiate in the final phase of the 2018 World Cup in Russia. Sikazwe is joined by fellow African referee Malang Diédiou of Senegal as the only two referees from the Confederation of African Football, CAF. World Football governing body FIFA reduced the number of referees for the final phase in view of the number of matches and teams remaining in the World Cup. According to a CAF website monitored by ZNBC Sports in Lusaka, referees committee chairperson Pierluigi Collina has told reporters in Moscow that the committee selected 17 referees, 37 assistant referees and 10 video assistant referees for the final phase. And on that sporting note, we come to the end of the main news. Let's now recap on the top stories. Government has launched the National Land Titling Program Centre with a target to issue 300,000 certificates of title to properties on state land in 2018. Minister of Lands Jean Kapata says the titling program will empower property owners to use their properties for further investment and development. Copperbelt Permanent Secretary Bright Nundwe has challenged AVIC International, the Chinese contractor engaged to construct the multi-million-dollar Ndola International Airport, to beat the deadline. Mr. Nundwe, who toured the $397 million project, said he is impressed with the quality of works done so far. Minister of Transport and Communications Brian Mushimba says the impending cybersecurity laws are meant to safeguard Zambia's cyberspace. Speaking when he issued a ministerial statement on the use of social and electronic media platforms in Zambia in Parliament today, Mr. Mushimba said the laws will promote responsible use of electronic media platforms as well as improve the country's economic performance. And finally in the news, the Football Association of Zambia FAZ has officially announced Sven Vandenbroek as new head coach of the Zambia national football team. FAZ Acting Secretary General Adrian Kashala says Vandenbroek will be unveiled to the media on Tuesday after his formal presentation to the Minister of Sports on Monday next week. And this is where we end the main news. I would like to thank you so much for watching. Do join me for another news broadcast at 22 hours. From me, Patricia Ellis, my sign language interpreter, Obed Mamboy, is bye-bye for now.